Thank you so much for joining me.
Great pleasure.
What is the vision behind Doha Debates?
The vision behind Doha Debates is to bring some free speech to a region that doesn't have any, to bring some accountability and to allow a generation of young Arabs and Muslims to ask important questions of politicians, of thought leaders, of people who have responsibility for their lives and for what takes place in their lives. And there's no tradition of doing this for 1400 years. You go back to the time of the Prophet. It was a time when people debated, people of different faiths, people of different political persuasions debated. There was learning, there was study, there was inquiry, there was probing. All that has disappeared, particularly in the Arab world, in the last few decades. And what we tried to do was to ask our audiences to take a giant step backwards to that time of probing and questioning and debating.
A lot of the critics would be saying right now that if you talk about terrorism, there are lots of countries or cultures who have been involved with terrorism in the past. Why haven't we seen a Tim Sebastian debate in Sri Lanka or in Israel, for example?
Well, we may well see one in Israel, but when I was working for Hard Talk, a program on the BBC, which is a straight interview program, I was working on there for 7.5 years. We did issues in Sri Lanka. We did go to Israel many times. Look, this is a debating program. We have to have a home. It's an enormously complex thing to pick up our bed and walk to every country in the world. We'll get around as many as we can. I like to travel. We've had 2 debates in the UK. We've had now our first in the United States. We're going to be moving around the world. Yes, we will. Come back and criticize me in 10 years for doing that. Give me time. We're stacking up the air miles quite a bit already, and we're going to be doing more of it. I promise you that.
Okay, you mentioned Hard Talk. I remember a time when people were glued to the TV screens waiting for Tim Sebastian's Hard Talk to appear, where people would get a chance to watch how politicians could be grilled and ask the same questions that most probably were in the minds of the people.
Hopefully, hopefully.
How's been your journey from Hard Talk to Doha Debates?
Well, I did Hard Talk for 7.5 years, and it was an extraordinarily rewarding program. It was a great privilege to do because, as you say, the job was to ask questions on behalf of the people who couldn't do that. It's always useful in the media for people to remind you of who you're doing this for. This isn't some showbiz exercise. This isn't about egos. This isn't about me being able to get a better table in a restaurant when I go somewhere where you get recognized. It's about asking questions on behalf of the people who can't do it for themselves. To me, a news interview is about cross-examination on the basis of facts. People can say, yes, you were a tough interview, you were hard, you never gave them room. It wasn't a process of trying to bash somebody. It was a process of trying to extract something as close to the truth as you could possibly get out of them. That was the important thing to me.
A lot of the people that I've come across have asked me that when the solution to the Middle East crisis lies not in the Middle East but in the West, then why are we talking about Doha Debates?
Well, we're talking about having Doha Debates because it's important that the people who make the decisions in the West listen to the voices that are coming out of the Muslim and Arab world. Without knowing what those voices are saying, without knowing what the concerns are to these people, and there are very, very different concerns. Again, I go back to the point I made. We in the West often lump everybody in the 22 Arab states together and say this is what the Arab world thinks. There's no way of saying what the Arab world thinks anymore. There's a way of saying what the Western world thinks. I mean, they think all kinds of different things. But we need to know what that diversity is.
How happy are you with the standards of broadcast journalism or investigative journalism right now in the world?
I'm not happy with broadcast journalism at all. And I go back to this a lot. I mean, when I started in broadcast journalism, there wasn't 24-hour news. And there wasn't this huge array of satellite channels that we have now. You know, if you run a channel, a 24-hour news channel, you know what your priority is? Your priority is to fill that black hole that is stretching away for the next 24 hours and the 24 hours after that, for weeks and years to come. And instead of allowing you to exercise good news judgment, all you want to do is fill that black hole.
But you can fill it with quality content.
Well, that's very difficult because you don't have the money to. I mean, budgets are being cut left, right, and center.
But how important do you think it is for a journalist to be impartial? Sometimes nationalism kicks in when we talk about India and Pakistan, what happened in the Mumbai blast, the kind of reporting we saw in India and in Pakistan, and then what happened with the lawyers' movement in Pakistan. What should a journalist keep in mind once that kind of event unfolds?
I think a journalist has to keep in mind that skepticism, healthy skepticism for whatever they're told, not to accept handouts of information, to test everything they're told and hear, and particularly in interviews, to take the opposite point of view from the person they're talking to. There's no point saying, oh, Mr. President, is there anything you'd like to tell the nation? That isn't an interview. That's a handout. You need to put the president through his paces. He's a public servant. And that's the process that we're engaged in here in interviewing. It's about accountability. That's what journalists are for. That's why I went into journalism. That's why I stay in journalism, is to introduce a measure of accountability into society. It comes back to what I said before. It's a court of public opinion. In many cases, this is the only court these people will ever appear in. So you might as well ask the questions that society wants to know the answers to.
Well, right now, my audience would love to know if there ever will be a Pakistan debates.
I can't answer that question. Will we bring the Doha debates to Pakistan? We may well do. We may well do. There's plenty to talk about.
Will you be coming back to DC?
If I'm allowed back into DC, I'll certainly come back to DC, yeah.
Well, we thank you so much for your time.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much.
Pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you. Thanks.